Hello, survivors, and welcome to the quarantine zone. Seeing Ellie in danger or injured is always an uncomfortable and tense moment in this post-apocalyptic world, where this girl has carried a great burden on her shoulders thus far. To be the possible cure for the virus that has left the planet desolate. We are a few hours away from seeing episode 6 of The Last of Us, and we have many expectations of what will happen after the expected and tense meeting between the brothers to see what happens to Ellie and who is bent on hurting her and why. In the teaser trailer that HBO gave us, we can see a few seconds of Ellie, where she appears with a scratched face and seems to be terrified. In this video, join me to see what will possibly happen to Ellie in episode 6. Many fans have been wondering if we are finally going to get to see David in tonight's episode of The Last of Us. David is the main antagonist in the Lakeside Resort chapter, for those who have never played the first game. While very little is known about David's past, we do know that he was the leader of a group of cannibalistic survivors. Ellie first meets David in the winter of 2033 while she is hunting a deer. She became wary of him and his friend James right away. David offers Ellie some supplies in exchange for some meat from the deer that Ellie just hunted and killed. Ellie demands some antibiotics in return and threatens to kill them if they dare try anything on her. James leaves and goes back to their settlement to get the antibiotics, leaving David alone with Ellie. They go to a barn nearby to take refuge from the cold weather. David asks Ellie what her name is. Ellie, being cautious, doesn't give it to him. Soon they are attacked by numerous infected, and David helps Ellie fight them off, causing Ellie's attitude towards him to soften slightly. After clearing out a nearby building, David and Ellie return to their original refuge. It is here that we discover who David really is and his true intentions. David reveals that it was his men that attacked Joel and Ellie at the university. A returning James overhears the conversation and holds Ellie up at gunpoint, but David demands that Ellie be given the antibiotics and lets her go free. Ellie rides away and escapes on horseback, but ultimately her horse gets shot and killed, leaving Ellie no choice but to escape on foot. Eventually, David finds Ellie, grabs her from behind, and chokes her unconscious. When Ellie regains consciousness, she realizes she is being held in a small cell. It is here that we see James chopping up a corpse on a table, and we discover David and his men are cannibals. Ellie tries to escape but unfortunately fails. The next day, David and James pin Ellie down on the table in an attempt to slaughter her for food. While struggling, Ellie bites David's hand, infuriating him even more. Just as David is about to strike her with a butcher knife, Ellie yells, "I'm infected! I'm infected!" and tells David that he's infected also. Of course, David is skeptical, but Ellie insists that he should roll up her sleeve and see for himself. Upon seeing the truth, James loses it, and David claims there's no way the bite on her arm is real because she would have already turned. As James and David continue to argue, Ellie is able to grab the butcher knife with her left hand and slice James's throat, killing him instantly. David grabs his gun and tries to shoot Ellie as she escapes, but hits one of the hanging bodies instead. Ellie ends up in an old restaurant, and David eventually tracks her down. In a game of cat and mouse, Ellie is able to stab David numerous times, and while struggling, David is able to slam Ellie on a table, knocking her out, before he also passes out. When David regains consciousness, he sees Ellie crawling toward a machete. Just as she is about to grab it, David comes from behind and kicks her multiple times, telling her it's okay to give up. Of course, Ellie refuses, and David continues his attack on her and proceeds to grab her by the throat. Ellie is able to get the machete and slashes David in the arm, causing him to roll off of her and scream in pain. This allows Ellie to finally get rid of David as she gets on top of him and begins to viciously hack and slash at David's face and neck, killing him. She only stops because it's at this moment that Joel returns and finds her. David's actions are heavily implied to have had a long-term impact on Ellie, as she became noticeably more withdrawn, distant, and quiet, while Rima Ening more determined than ever to reach the fireflies during the spring Mundvis. Remember, knowledge is power, and staying informed is key to survival in today's world. Don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button and join me on this journey again soon. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and take care of each other. This was your friend, Josh White. See you in the next video.